Welcome back to the Single Malt Review. Today we're once again in the Highlands and once again at my favourite distillery, Glendronach.
No, we just can't stay away. It's almost like it's a very popular distillery. Anyway, so what's this one?
The Glendronach Hielan. It is the recent 8-year-old bottling. It is particularly young for a Glendronach, and it is also unusual for Glendronach, combination of bourbon and sherry casks. You don't see so much bourbon in Glendronach. They're definitely more of an Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez.
In fact, you see extraordinarily little. This is out of the box. It's astonishing because this is just about the lightest coloured, and it's unchill filtered, uncoloured, just like I think the majority of Glenfarclas. Good of them. Just about the lightest I've ever seen the whiskey. Outside of one independent bottle I ended up with that was 100% bourbon matured. That was a bit of a freak show. But anyway, the Glendronach Hielan, which we have discovered is merely Gaelic for Highland. So I don't know what Gaelic is for imagination, but they didn't have a great deal of it that day. But never mind. Certainly indicative of the style. Quite archetypical there. Let's crack in and see. Of course, Glendronach's last foray into the 8-year-old whisky market was the Glendronach Octarine, which was released to maybe quite a lot of fanfare, but not a supreme critical response, you would have to say. I did taste one, and I would have to agree that it was too young. I maintain the opinion that Glendronach, like really only a few distilleries with a very, very distinct style all unto their own, have an age where they must achieve before they really grow up and become what they are. And if they're too young, then they don't make that they don't mature into that independent sort of style. They just taste like young whiskey, and that's no good. So anyway, here it is in the glass. Again, unchill filtered, uncoloured, so we can trust that, and it's almost shocking for Glendronach. It is the sherried whiskey. Other whiskies might sort of make some suggestions that they're the sherried whiskey, but as far as I'm aware, and as far as my habits go, if I want a sherried whiskey and I don't want to muck around, then Glendronach is the one I reach for. It's not just exclusively sherried, it's reliable sherried whiskey. They don't make sherry bombs or anything uncouth like occasional producers of sherried whiskey do. It's their bread and butter, and they do it very well. So, let's see what they have for us today. Whew! You know, I'd have to call that spirit-driven. What do you think?
It's fiery. It's
good grief.
If I was feeling harsh, I'd say it's almost a petrochemical kind of tang. It just gets up in your sinuses. This is only a 46% bottling, and we're not going cask strength. But it's definitely screaming out, I am a young spirit, and there's a lot of bourbon in me.
It's a warm day, so that's not going to be doing it any favours, but that is fumey, is what that is.
I'm reaching for aromas and flavours under there. I guess there's some some ginger, some carbohydrates, some cake, a little bit of fruit.
Yeah, no, I'll just have to rally my nose here to do it at full strength, which is full strength at 46%. You know, that shouldn't normally be a problem, but here we are. There is a creaminess to it and a butteriness to it, and that'll be the bourbon coming through. It's quite alien to normal Glendronach.
There's that bourbon vanilla character
because vanilla, coconut, cream, butter, that sort of grain. That's not what you normally anticipate from Glendronach. Glendronach is a sort of a dark, fruity, woody, oaky, syrupy, very, very significantly spicy and citrus whiskey. I think my two tells for Glendronach are orange peel and ginger. Is what you can sort of always find in most of your Glendronach.
I'm definitely picking ginger and sort of like, imagine the classic lemons studded with cloves.
Weird, very weird, but not I should say unpleasant. It would be unpleasant if you didn't like a very spirit-driven whiskey, but I can cope with that. So
there are some fantastic young whiskies coming through these days. The bottlers, the distillers, even are being very careful about what they pick and choose, and really selecting some cracking younger spirit.
So we'll maintain an open mind as we go in and do the palate.
It's prickling.
It's punchy, all right, yeah. It's remarkably dry for Glendronach. It's almost like it's Glendronach for people that hate Glendronach, which seems like an odd thing to make if you are in fact Glendronach. But maybe they are actually trying a genuine alternative here. It's not really marketed as that. It's just sort of put out there as the, you know, maybe the affordable, very, very, very entry-level Glendronach, rather than here's a Glendronach that's markedly different, which I think is maybe a missed mark there. But anyway,
what I'm thinking of first and foremost is a slice of very warm, very buttered, and very spicy Jamaican-style ginger loaf.
The ginger is still there, and the citrus is still there too, but it's moved over to a lemon direction rather than an orange direction. It's dried up and it's more tart. It's quite a good sort of mouth-watering character actually. There is decent acid in here.
Bit of a lemon curd creaminess.
When it melts with the creaminess from the bourbon wood, you do get a sort of a lemon curd, kind of a lemon, maybe a lemon sponge almost, but a very, very lively one. Let's see what it does with a bit of water.
For me, the water has brought back that tongue prickling sensation I got on the first sip.
It's brought the spirit out too. As we said in what was probably the last episode, water will accentuate all the characters of a whiskey, and it will bring them all to the surface. And if it's a significantly young whiskey, then that significant spirit will only become more significant. You know, it won't necessarily get better or worse, but it'll be very, very obvious about what it is. And with water, I think it tastes more like an 8-year-old whiskey than without. So be warned there.
It's much more sinus prickling with that water, as you say, from the spirit being brought to the fore.
Now we've got acetone. There is a much more of a petrochemical twang on it now, which I'm not sure is doing it any supreme favours. I may have put just a touch more in than I should have.
The flavour has mellowed and balanced more. I'm getting a lot more fruit now, some banana, some citrus. Still with the vanilla and the ginger.
You know, I may with this statement cause a few other online commentators to explode, but you know, I don't think I would have any trouble putting a cube of ice in here. I wouldn't do it to any other Glendronach, but I think this one is quite well positioned to just be a slightly longer, slightly cooler drink, especially in hot weather like we've got today. So there, keep that one in mind. Certainly versatile.
I think it's quite a bold experiment. It's very young, and I'm wondering if that was part of the reason why there's the bourbon matured whiskey in there as well. Perhaps just sherry alone wouldn't have enough gravitas to carry this.
Well,
by itself.
I think this is, the more I taste this, the more I think the conclusion I come to is that it's not bad Glendronach, it's different Glendronach. I think they learned from their experiment with the Octarine, which was made in exactly the same sort of style of Glendronach. It was Oloroso and PX, I believe. There wasn't much of any bourbon in there, and what it tasted like was something that was trying to be Glendronach, but it just wasn't there. It wasn't where it needed to be. It wasn't old enough. It hadn't learned how to be proper Glendronach yet. This isn't trying to be that. This is trying to be a completely different style of whiskey, and I think the style that it's trying to be doesn't need to be as old as standard traditional Glendronach. So I think this is actually fairly clever. Glendronach has found a way of releasing a younger whiskey that works. So again, hats off to their blender, whoever they may be. They're doing really rather scientific work down there. Not that other master blenders are not. I know it's not an easy job. I wouldn't want to do it. But yes, I came into this whiskey really very, very suspicious. Purely based on what I knew about it on face value, but it's kind of turned me around. As a Glendronach fan, it's never going to be my favourite because it's going in such a different direction, but as a fan of whiskey and as someone who understands some of the processes and some of the artistry that goes in, I can really respect why it's doing what it's doing. So I think my score for that one, it's actually going to be a 79, which is, I think, I'm not sure if I'm being generous or not, but no, definitely a 79 for me. I think that's a really, really quite a good quality whiskey, and it's a really brave whiskey from Glendronach. They're really striking out there with a different style from that one, which not many producers that have their sort of known style, their known brand do. So it's good to see them do that, and it's good to see it work as well. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, Glendronach are known for a particular milieu. They have their niche. They stick to it generally. This time they've stepped outside that niche, but they've really succeeded in doing so. It's not just a stab in the dark or some wild experimentation. It's experimental, sure, but in a way which absolutely works. It's a really feisty, wee beastie of a whiskey compared to the usual darker, richer, heavier offerings.
You know,
I'm pleased and intrigued. I'd give it a solid 80.
No, really, I think quite surprising scores coming out of that. I'm surprised myself at how high I was willing to rate that one. If there was one piece of advice I would give them, is that I don't think it actually needs its age statement. When you call a whiskey 8 years old, you're letting on that it's young, but you're not giving away much more information. If it's that young, everyone's going to assume it's 8 years old if it doesn't have an age statement. What I would have done with this one, was I Glendronach's brand man, which I am certainly not, I would have pushed this one as what it is, which is something really quite different to Glendronach. I would have made it more obvious as a Glendronach alternative rather than simply part of the range, because it really isn't. If you stood this up with other Glendronachs and gave it a Glendronach score, it would score extremely poorly because it is not like its peers. However, people just have to figure that out on their own. I suppose that's what we're for at the end of the day, bringing this crucial information to the internet. But anyway, you'll have to form your own opinions, but as it happens, I can recommend that. So there you go. It's not a big investment. Go and try it for yourself. So, thank you once again for joining us. I hope everyone's having a good Christmas and New Year, assuming we haven't been too slack with our episodes and this isn't going up in February or something. I really hope it's not, and I do apologise if it is. However, this has been a Single Malt Review. Thank you very much for joining us yet again. And in the meantime, Slanger.